I did not get the part of Ebeneezer Scrooge in the grade school musical when I was in 6th grade. That part went to my best friend, John Barber, the son of the local congregational minister. I played the role of one of the two portly gentlemen, which I didn't realize till I was older really wasn't that kind of the teacher, but that's okay. One of the two gentlemen goes into the counting house to ask Scrooge for money and are kind of told to get lost. So that's my acting career. I don't get the part I'm told to get lost. Thank God for Boar's Head Festival. What I did get to do is my illustration of Scrooge being shown by the ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, his grave, was the cover of the program. So that was my mark in theater history. And that involvement with that story that year cemented my love for that story. My father, the next year, gave me a very old, not original 1843, but from the 1850s edition of A Christmas Carol. I still have it. The covers have fallen off, the pages are fragile, and it's great. A close reading of A Christmas Carol will give you many riches. And I think the enduring popularity of the story is due not so much to its happy ending, but rather because the fact we can all relate to Scrooge. We have all been Scrooge. We all have that mood and that time in our lives where we say, bah humbug at everything, we turn the world off, we don't want to deal, we don't like it. And I think we all also, very great many of us, have a story of rebirth where we bounce back and right the ship. It is a story about how the journey, not the destination, is important. It's a story of transformation from darkness to light, from inner turmoil to inner peace. And the imagery used to show the enlightenment, the light imagery, I think is something we miss on casual reading. But Dickens is a fantastic writer. So he shows us the enlightenment all the way through. For example, scene opens in Scrooge's counting house. And one of the first things Dickens notes is the fires are very low. And Bob Cratchit's even smaller than Scrooge's. When Scrooge's nephew Fred comes in to wish everybody Merry Christmas, right? Scrooge doesn't want any part of it, Fred leaves. And when Fred leaves, Bob Cratchit pokes the fire and the last ember goes out. Right? Scrooge goes home to his quarters and peers into the darkness going up the huge staircase. And Dickens tells us, darkness was cheap, Scrooge liked it. When Marley's ghost arrives, the meager fire Dickens has described in the fireplace leaps up. Because the ghost will be the source of the enlightenment, right? When the ghost of Christmas Past shows up, it was strange. Right? Its description, Dickens says, is strange. The strangest of all was that from the crown of its head sprung a bright, clear jet of light. Right? And he has a cap, like a candle extinguisher. And when Scrooge is shown all the scenes from his past and he can't take it anymore, what's he do to get rid of the ghost? Puts that flame out with the extinguisher cap, and the ghost disappears. Scrooge wakes up for the next ghost, doesn't see anything going on, and he almost doesn't notice that his bed was the very core and center of a blaze of ruddy light, which streamed upon it when the clock proclaimed the hour, and which, being only light, was more alarming than a dozen ghosts. He goes into his parlor to see the ghost sitting on a vast heap of plenty of food, gifts, and drink. And his fire, which has always been meager, was such a mighty blaze went roaring up the chimney as that dull petrification of heart has never known in Scrooge's time. And the ghost of Christmas present bears a torch, a glowing torch in shape, not unlike Plenty's horn, and held it up high, high up, to shed its light on Scrooge as he came peeping round the door. They go about the city, and when the ghost sprinkles the light from his torch on food and people, they are transformed. The people arguing become happier and less grumpy. The food tastes better. And Scrooge asks, does it make everything taste better? And the ghost says, indeed it does. Makes every meal better, a poor one most. And Scrooge asks why? Because a poor one needs it most. When they are finished visiting the Cratchit's house, they go visit miners who are gathered around a fire. Then they visit a lighthouse. And then finally, Nephew Fred, where the action is taking place in a bright, gleaming room. Dickens is kind of hitting us over the head with the Enlightenment stuff, and I think we miss it on casual reading, right? It's always darkest before the dawn. The ghost of Christmas yet to come shows up in an air of gloom and mystery, and is described as one giant heap of black. All the light is gone. Darkest before the dawn. But there's a glimmer of hope. When they see the Cratchit's house, even though Tiny Tim has died, the house was lighted cheerfully. And then Scrooge wakes up, and his heart is changed, right? A heart that was 2 sizes too small is okay now. And he's giddy, he's running around the room, going crazy. Then he remembers, oh, what day is it? Is it still Christmas yet? And he runs to the window and throws open the window. No fog, no mist, clear, bright, jovial, stirring cold, glorious sunlight, heavenly sky, sweet fresh air, merry bells, oh, glorious, glorious. Did you catch all that stuff ever in the story? It's a story of enlightenment, and we tell it every year. There's another story of enlightenment that we tell every year, and many of us miss that one too, because it's not our tradition. December 8th is Bodhi Day, the day in which many Buddhists celebrate the day the historical Buddha gained enlightenment sitting under the Bodhi tree. Ficus tree. Ficus religiosa, actually. And so, the Buddha story is really like Scrooge's. The historical Buddha was a prince named Siddhartha Gautama in India. Had everything, opulent riches that would make Donald Trump look like a poor beggar Scrooge ignores. But he grows disgusted with his riches, because he sees so many people suffering while he has so much. So he goes to the other extreme. He becomes a wandering ascetic, starving, eating very little, begging for food, only wears one set of rags, always meditating. And he never gets the answers. And finally, one day he says, nuts to this. And he finally accepts a big, huge bowl of sweetened rice and milk that a person gives him, and he eats. He jumps in the river and takes a shower and puts on some new clothes. All the people he was hanging out with think he's quit, so they tell him to get lost. And by himself, he goes and sits under a tree and meditates, vowing not to get up till he's gained understanding. There are many versions of this story. In some, the Buddha sits for many days. In some, the Buddha sits for 3 nights, which is cool. But my favorite is the versions where he sits under the tree for 1 night, because it's just like Scrooge's, right? And when he sits under the tree, he is visited by Mara, the chief demon of the world, the destroyer, who tempts him with power and riches and beautiful women he holds to his meditation. And throughout the night, he gains 3 knowledges, which happen over the course of the 3 night watches. Right? 3 spirits, the 3 night watches. The first night watch, he learns about release from samsara, which is the endless cycle of death and rebirth. And when we learn about this, it's not just reincarnation that we'll come back till we get it right. It's that even in our current lifetime, we insist on continuing to create worlds that are illusions for ourselves. The worlds of addictions, the worlds of ignoring, the worlds of sealing ourselves off, the worlds of creating whatever we need to so as not to be present and alive and feeling to the right here, right now, what's in our heart, what's around us. During the first night watch, he learns all his past lives, as if the ghost of Christmas past came and said, all the past times you've gone through having to reinvent yourself and hiding from things, they can end. You can be right here, right now, all the time. During the second night watch, the Buddha learns the law of karma. And karma is a Sanskrit word that means action. We are our actions. The Buddha's teaching goes, our actions are our only true possessions. When we popularly speak of karma, we tend to speak of it or hear of it in terms of the results of actions. What goes around comes around, right? That's not really what it means in the Buddhist tradition. It's a little more complex and a little deeper. What it means is that because our actions are our only true possessions, what we do is who we are. Right? We are creatures in a sense of habit and virtue, and the more we do a thing, the more we become it. How do you become a just person? You practice justice. How do you become a loving person? You practice loving kindness. How do you become a loyal person? You practice loyalty. We are what we do, and we do what we are. In the third night watch, after learning to be present to the present reality, like the ghost of Christmas present, right? He gets to the third night watch and he learns the Dharma, the 4 noble truths. The first is the world contains suffering. The second is the cause of suffering is desire and ignorance. Cravings, things we cling to. And ignorance of the way things really are, whether we like the way they are or not. Third noble truth is the reality of being released from suffering, that reaching nirvana, or a state of no wind, no desire, no ignorance is possible. And the method for reaching that is the Eightfold Path. Right understanding, right thought, right speech, right livelihood, right action, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. It is possible to reach nirvana. The future is possible, just like the ghost of Christmas yet to come teaches Scrooge. In a really harsh way, he teaches them. And when the morning sun rises, Siddhartha has become the Buddha, the enlightened one, the wise one. Right? Very famous fictional character, Scrooge. Very revered, holy person of history, the Buddha. And yet, we, each of us, are a lot like both of them. Being a fictional character, Scrooge is not so far beyond us, and being a super holy person, well, Buddha is not really that far beyond us either. Scrooge and Buddha share a lot with you and me. First of all, neither is perfect. Right? Neither is perfect. Scrooge is so not perfect that we get that right from the beginning, right? He's a cold, tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, right? Right from the beginning, we know this is not a nice guy. He is not perfect. And Buddha, well, the part of the story we don't tell about the Buddha a lot is, yes, he gave up all his riches, but you know what he did when he did that? He ran away from his wife and children. He had some midlife Buddhist crisis thing and just took off with his family. That is not a holy thing to do. Right? Now, he gets to a place where he learns a lot and teaches the rest of us, but neither of these guys is perfect, right? And we know we are not perfect. And yet we're holy as Buddha, and we get to the place where we're great as Scrooge. Everybody's that human. That's one of our core teachings, is everyone deserves dignity and respect. And we owe that dignity and respect and compassion to ourselves as well, because none of us is perfect. Both are people who fail miserably. The Buddha tried to become an ascetic. Extreme self-discipline. Ate very little, didn't have more than one set of clothes, begged for his food, sat and prayed all the time. I mean, if we saw that Buddha on the street, we'd be like, does somebody know who's here? Can we get him some help? He couldn't do this. He couldn't act. He's like, this is nuts. And so he sits under the tree to find a middle way between the opulence of wasteful riches and the self-abnegation that you have to do all this crazy stuff just to be okay and holy. And he finds that middle way sitting under the tree. Scrooge fails at becoming rich. The only thing he wanted to do was lousy at it, because they had the money. But that's the whole point of the story. He didn't have what really makes us rich. He didn't have the friends, the family, the love, the connection. Both struggle with unearthly powers. They face demons, ghosts. And they learn from these that our own worst enemy is frequently ourselves. Isn't that not true of all of us? We all have our demons we wrestle with, the angels we wrestle with, the problems, the addictions, the struggles, the finances. We have all the demons too. We wrestle with them. And sometimes we learn, like Scrooge and the Buddha, that our worst enemy is ourselves. Both learn very good lessons about the dangers of ignorance. Suffering is due in large part to ignorance, of refusing to accept the way things are and then being able to deal. And that includes ignorance of the spirit and of the mind and of the emotions. Scrooge learns perhaps one of the cruelest, most harsh lessons, most blatant lessons about the dangers of ignorance in all literature. It's a part of the story that's left out of virtually, not every, but virtually all the plays and movies and musicals, because it's a tough part. It's right before the Ghost of Christmas Present leaves. "Forgive me if I am not justified in what I ask," said Scrooge, looking intently at the spirit's robe, "but I see something strange and not belonging to yourself protruding from your skirts. Is it a foot or a claw?" "It might be a claw, for the flesh there is upon it," was the spirit's reply. "Look here, man, look here." From the foldings of its robe it brought two children, wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. They knelt down at its feet and clung upon the outside of its garment. "Oh man, look here, down here," exclaimed the ghost. They were a boy and a girl, yellow, meager, ragged, scowling, wolfish, or prostrate in their humility. Where graceful youth should have filled their features out and touched them with its freshest tints, a stale and shriveled hand like that of old age had pinched and twisted them and pulled them into shreds. Where angels might have sat and grown, devils lurked and glared out menacing. No change, no degradation, no perversion of humanity in any grade. Through all the mysteries of creation has monsters half so horrible and dread. Scrooge started back, appalled, having them shown to him in this way. He tried to say they were fine children, but the words choked themselves rather than be parties to a lie of such enormous magnitude. "Spirit, are they yours?" he asked. "They are man's," said Scrooge, looking down on them. "And they cling to me, appealing from their fathers. This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. Beware them both in all their degree, but most of all beware this boy, for on his brow I see that written which is doom, unless the writings be erased." "Deny it," cried the spirit, stretching out his hand toward the city. Slander those who tell it ye. Admit it for your factious purposes and make it worse. And abide the end. And the ghost leaves him. The Buddha says we need to not be ignorant of the truth of reality of right here, right now. And that right here, right now, our everyday, is holy and sacred. And I think sometimes because we do not, in a sense, what Buddhists call pay attention to it in the present moment, we miss so much of it. The ordinary things are the most sacred. Can we be present to them at all times so we don't miss what is already there? Like Pema Chodron tells us, right? There's nothing we need to do or be. It's all right there. Buddhist teacher Gary Snyder says, all of us are apprenticed to the same teacher, reality. Reality says, master 24 hours, do it well, do it without self-pity. It is as hard to get the children herded into the carpool and down the road to the bus as it is to chant sutras in the Buddhist hall on a cold morning. One is not any better than the other or more holy. Each, in fact, can be quite boring, and they both have the virtuous and frustrating quality of repetition. Repetition and ritual, and their good results come in many forms. Change the filter, wiping the nose, go to meeting, pick up the house, wash the dishes. Don't let yourself think these are distracting you from more serious spiritual pursuits. Such a round of chores is not a set of difficulties we hope to escape so that we may do our spiritual practice, which puts us on a better path. All those things are our path. Scrooge learned it, and Buddha learned it. And both of them were examples to others. They both became what the Buddhists call bodhisattvas. A bodhisattva is a person who gains enlightenment, but instead of living in nirvana, sticks around to teach others the way. The Buddha, the historical Buddha, the Shakyamuni Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, was the first bodhisattva. After he gains enlightenment, he spends many days thinking about what to do next. And he says, there's only one thing to do. Teach other people what I'm doing and see if this way works for them. And that's what he did. Scrooge is a bodhisattva too. We'll note the end of the story. He's a changed man, right? And it was always said of Scrooge that he knew how to keep Christmas well if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that truly be said of us too. God bless us, everyone.